Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Future Proof, where we explore the impact of AI on business growth. For those tuning in for the first time, I'm Brent Muller from Deploy AI. While 73% of B2B SaaS leaders are struggling with longer sales cycle and rising customer acquisition costs, our clients are using AI to cut their sales cycles by 30% and reduce their overall acquisition by up to 40%. We don't just talk about AI we implement autonomous growth engine to turn it into your biggest bottlenecks into your competitive advantage. If you're just tired of watching competitors pull ahead and stuck with manual process and integration headaches, let's talk. No pitch. We're happy to talk to you for 15 or 30 minutes. Links in the show notes. But let's get to today's episode. I'm really excited to have today's guest, Joanna Jones from InterQ Research. And Joanna's in a really cool niche. A lot of you founders are going to find this really interesting. So Joanna, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure to join a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we always do. Let's jump right in and let's talk about your background, right? Leading up to becoming the CEO.
Sure. So I studied psychology in college. That was my major, and was always really interested in just human behavior and what drives people. I did a lot of work in qualitative research as a student. I had an internship with one of my professors, and my senior project involved qualitative research, which I'm mentioning that because my career comes full circle eventually back to that. Then I did grad school in technical communication, so technical writing and editing, got my first job in an ad agency.
Don't you wish you had AI
editor.
back then?
Oh my gosh, that would have been amazing. Yeah, I don't even think they have editors anymore, what I used to do. So I got a job just kind of randomly at a marketing ad agency, large ad agency. And from that learned marketing, which I had not studied at all in school. And particularly, ad agencies, as you know, handle media buying, PR, the whole gamut for large brands. The thing that I was really drawn to at ad agencies was the research part. So they do qualitative research, they do focus groups, they do a lot of They want to understand how people perceive ads, right? And do they laugh at it? Do they find it funny? Do they find it compelling? What do they think about the taglines? So that kind of became more interesting to me than copy editing, billboards and whatnot. And eventually my career, I had my own little marketing agency for a few years and then decided to go back to the research route. I just always found that really compelling. And I felt like of all the work in marketing, that was the most impactful to actually talk to people and understand that. So went out on a limb and started InterQ with zero expectations that it was going to be what it's become. Because I worked in marketing, I knew how to market a brand. I knew how to position a brand. I knew how to do content marketing. I knew how to tell a story, all of that, which when I started the company 10 years ago, that ended up being not a lot of other research companies were doing that in the space compellingly well. And particularly in the Bay Area where I live and am based out of, I was able to get a lot of clients.
One of the major hubs of all new products and SaaS companies being launched.
Totally, exactly.
Not a bad place to be embedded.
Exactly. And brands could find my website very easily. I think the story that I told through the brand resonated with people. So I started picking up some pretty big clients right away. That again, just was a little unprepared in the beginning for how.
Hey, you jumped in with both feet, right?
I jumped in with both feet. I had imposter syndrome, like you cannot believe. I had to learn so much along the way about, especially working with really complex technologies and SaaS companies. One of my very first clients actually was a SaaS company that was doing AI 10 years ago and wanted to understand how it was a healthcare software company, how employees might perceive AI's guidance and kind of that intrusion. So from very early on, we've been doing a lot of AI research. And of course, that's accelerated now. Most of the research we do currently has to do with how are they embedding AI? How is it working? What do people expect out of AI for a SaaS company?
Yeah.
And then in addition, we use AI a lot now as researchers, it became so prevalent, we would get 400, 500 pages of transcripts from a project, from
Right.
interviews, like doing 30 customer interviews, 1 hour long each, or focus groups all around the country. And you just would be left with like massive amounts of transcripts to sort through and try to code and find the themes from these conversations. And now with AI, instead of hiring interns to do that for me, I can have it analyzed and we can pull out stuff from the transcript. So it's been extremely transformational in our research and how we work, but we still have that human side where we're still interviewing, we're still the ones shaping the studies, developing the methodologies, creating customized research. But it's been really fascinating to see how AI has progressed over this last decade and being kind of on the inside with a lot of the research that we've done with companies early on when it was getting rolled out
Right.
and how it was impacting. People were so scared initially from it, right?
Yeah.
And now seeing just the adoption and a different kind of fear now that's creeping up with, is this going to replace me? Are people still going to have jobs? It's kind
Right.
of, the pendulum has swung from being
Yeah.
this really exciting technology that saves time to people are like, oh my God, am I going to be irrelevant? So it's just been fascinating and really, I'm just truly grateful. I love my job. I love research. I love getting to talk to people and connect with them and giving companies that guidance of like, this is actually what customers are looking for. This is how your brand is sitting with them versus, people get very myopic internally.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's, I kind of went off in a tangent there, but hopefully I
No, no,
answered
no.
your
That's
question.
good because, I think that is what kind of all the stuff that you're talking about is what are on people's minds about where AI fits in. And one of the guests that we had on and who's been a pretty good partner for the show is a guy from Great Advisor News, and he talks about the four places that AI fits in, right? It's the
Mm-hmm.
model, it's the systems, it's the product, which is where you're living, right? And then the business of AI, which is basically how would you reimagine the business
Mm-hmm.
with the AI capabilities? Because before AI and now after AI, it's different, right? It's completely
Yeah,
different. It's like talking about a taxi company and Uber, right? They're just different.
totally.
So, but going back to the product part, are you finding with your clients that they want the AI to be embedded, bolt-on feature? Because everyone,
Mm-hmm.
like if you're at the board level, you're like, I got to get AI into the product, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just
Mm-hmm.
somehow.
Sure.
But the true changing of the product is how you use and implement AI. How are you seeing that? And what's happening?
We see across the board. So some companies are that have the capabilities in-house to truly customize AI, and they have like a 5-10 year roadmap for how this is going to get embedded within their software. So there's a ton of research that we're doing for them. It's much more deliberate. It's a slow rollout, especially for these big enterprise tech companies that are doing that. And then other companies are just like, can we just cobble this on and grab products that are out there and call it AI first?
Mm,
Interestingly enough, we did a project last year for an AI company, and they wanted to do thought leadership around this very topic, like how is
mm,
AI being used across the industry? So I interviewed a
right.
bunch of founders, CEOs, people who are AI first companies, just about how they're building it in, what their roadmaps look like, what type of language LLMs they're using, how that's all being constructed. And so, everything from doing customized product research to actually doing reports on the trends and thought leadership and helping companies figure that out. You
Right.
kind of see the full gamut of it. So I would say it totally depends on the company, what kind of budgets they have, how big they are, who their clients are, how thoughtfully they're building it versus panicking and being like, we need to say we do AI, right? So you see the full
Right.
spectrum.
Yeah. And are you staying with the companies long enough to figure out on the other side if they, what was working and what's not, right? So like, because
Yeah.
if I'm a founder right now, I'm going to say, all right, Joanna, tell me
Yeah.
which direction should I go, right?
Right, right. That's a good question. So some of the clients we work with, we do multiple engagement. We kind of like we get embedded with their in-house research teams and we just do studies after study after study with them. So you
Hmm.
see bits and pieces. I'm working on one tiny piece of a massive project essentially.
Right.
And because this is still early on, these have very long roadmaps. I'm not sure how this is all going to develop in the future. Companies bring us in and the research just kind of goes into a black hole and I don't know what happens with it. And I'm always kind of curious how that was implemented or what they're building because of that. But then occasionally you'll see a product being released that I got to work on,
Yeah.
or something advertised. I'm like, oh,
A
I
little
worked with
sense
that
of
client.
pride,
Like,
right?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
totally. You're like, oh, they actually like use some of the research.
Yeah.
So it is an interesting perspective. I think any consultant deals with this, where you're just coming in for a very small part of the engagement. You don't necessarily have the full picture on how it's going to be used or implemented. And that's also a big concern of mine. Like for me personally, this is what keeps me up at night in research, is I want to make sure that the money that they're spending and the effort and the time that it takes to do these big research projects actually gets implemented. And it's not just a deck we give them that goes off in some folder that nobody reads. So we try to make our research really interactive. We do a lot of workshops with teams. We do a lot of design thinking type, human-centered design type of methodologies to engage the team so that they're actually digesting the research, talking about it, figuring out how this is going to translate to a product feature. And that's just a challenge that you have, because you can do the best effort that you can, and hopefully people take it to heart and take the research seriously. But sometimes you're dealing with political agendas or bureaucracies within these huge companies,
internal
and you just don't
politics,
know.
all of it, right?
Yeah,
Totally get it.
but that's my main concern, is I really want to make sure that any research that we put out has a compelling story that clicks with people, that they can remember. You simplify it, and then just putting it into action and getting people to the table to talk about it and workshop it. That tends to be a lot more successful than just like, here's your PowerPoint deck of 87 pages. Have fun digesting all this research, right? So yeah, that's my challenge.
I love it. And I totally get it, right? And I like that that you're so passionate about it, right? I love that what keeps you up at night, because that's a question I ask lots of our founders and CEOs. So you already gave me your perspective, which is great.
That's one of the things, for sure. There's other things,
exactly.
but that's definitely one thing as a researcher.
Things, right?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Being the CEO, you definitely have multitude of challenges, right?
Sure.
But tell me how you're using AI and how it's impacting your industry. Because one of the things I just got done, it's funny, old school, just got done watching Mad Men, right? I don't know if you've seen it, right?
I've seen it probably
school.
4 times, like the whole series. I love it so much.
Yeah, so old school, right? And I'm watching Peggy in the burger chef, drive-through line, right? And just stopping cars and that's her focus group,
research,
right?
Sure,
and then some of the other examples throughout the show, which is the old school. But now, right, you're able to do focus groups and get that feedback so much better and faster. But how is AI fitting into that, right? And how are you incorporated? Because I would imagine everything, including what you're doing, is just accelerating, right? Because you have access to more things faster.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
We use AI at various touch points. Can I mention brand names for companies that we use?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So I personally love Notebook LM, and I use that. So I'll upload, if I'm doing, for example, in-depth interviews like product testing or UX testing or whatever, I can upload as many of those MP3 files to Notebook LM and just start asking it questions about the data. Like, it's a lot of data I'm giving it, but like, tell me the themes for this specific question, or how often did this come up in the top as a topic? So it helps me. It's a huge time saver as a researcher. I do have a report writer, and I have a team that like shapes the actual reports, but it helps me as the moderator often on a project to go in and just start to play with the data and I can give top lines and snapshots to my clients really quickly versus having to wait on a team to process all those transcripts and hand code it and go through it. That's my favorite use case of it. It's amazing.
It's fantastic, by the way.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic. Sometimes I'll use it to help me even come up with questions for there's a whole process of how you shape a research question and what methodologies you use. But sometimes I'll just kind of, like, hey, this is my research problem. And these are the objectives. These are the questions I was thinking. Help me sharpen them up, right? Or help me shape this a little bit. So it can save time with that. And then one of our clients, who's a big technology company, they had us write a whole playbook for them, like different research methodology playbook, and how they can use AI for each of those methodologies. So we did a deep dive into that with figuring out there's so many tools out there now with AI. And how that can augment the research process. So it's still making it very research first, but how can AI speed this up, or how can it kind of just be like an extra guide to help you go through all this data? So that's those are the main use cases that we're primarily seeing. There's a lot of talk. I mean, if you go to any research conference nowadays, it's all about these AI agents, and are they going to be the ones moderating, and do we even need people anymore? Or is it just robots talking to robots on the end? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
you can go down all these black holes. I
I
still
think people
believe
take it
that
too far, right?
for
Like,
sure, absolutely.
yeah,
Like, I'm
yeah,
never going to hire an AI to moderate an interview
right,
for me. Like, you're
right,
still at the end of the day selling products to people, hopefully,
right.
and people make decisions and have unique psychology, and AI is brilliant. But in my opinion, if you're selling a product to a person, get to know those people, get to, define your personas and your segments, and use proper research to do that.
Right.
So,
Yeah, this is why we always say AI is your co-pilot, it's your
yes,
coworker, your digital coworker, however you want to say it, but it's not meant to replace. It's not there yet, and I'm not sure it's going to get there because it's supposed. Like, really, what I tell everybody is let it help you do the tedious and the repetitive stuff right now, so you
yeah,
can work on the stuff that matters. Because one thing
mhm,
AI cannot do is it doesn't have gut feeling, it doesn't
right,
have instincts. It's not meant to do that. And I think that's where people get lost. I don't know how you feel, but to me,
yeah,
that's
oh,
why I'm like,
absolutely,
guys, it's a great tool, right?
yeah,
It's like when you're doing math by hand and you get a calculator. It's a great
that's a
tool,
great
but
analogy.
people are really going off the deep end about it, I think.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you still, it hallucinates, there's mistakes, like it's not perfect
100%.
by any means. And that's why even though I use it a lot to help me sort through data and transcripts, I still have a human report writer who ultimately shapes the report and understands like much deeper business strategy, and
Yeah.
you have a much more complete picture that an AI is never going to understand about a product and a client and their business and the people involved and the politics. And when you're presenting research and writing reports, that's all in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to your analogy, it's a calculator versus handwritten math, but you still
Right.
have to have a gut check, and you're still at the end of the day selling products to humans. So,
Amen.
be human
Amen.
centered.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me how you think AI impacts the product industry, right? As you go forward. And I know people are talking about 5 and 10 year plans, but nobody I talk to has anything more than 18 months to 2 year because no one
Mhm.
knows how much we're going to accelerate, right?
Sure.
So as you look down the next 18 months, how do you see things in the products coming to market and the things you're
Mhm.
evaluating? How do you think AI shapes that, fits in, influences?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously depends on the industry and the product. I think this whole AI agent thing is kind of what's splashy right now, with basically a self-directed bot that's doing things for you, and companies are
Mm,
trying to tap into that and figure that out. Some of the industries, one that we work with, we do a lot of work with. I don't want to give away too much just because I have very tight NDAs with them, but it's a type of industry where AI can assist you, but you still need the expertise at the end of the day to make these products and to use the software correctly. So a lot of that balance is figuring out how can this help us sort through all this data or make suggestions on how to construct something, right? But you still need that highly trained person sitting at the other end of the keyboard with that knowledge to direct it. And I think that's the challenge. The biggest challenge right now is that it's not a replacement, and it shouldn't be. All these industries that are freaking out, like lawyers and accountants and everything's like, no, you still need a professional
yeah,
to help that. And this can speed up your job and it can save hours,
right.
but it should not replace anybody. And my big concern with AI, especially with like software engineers and, as I mentioned, lawyers, is they're thinking like, cool, we don't even have to hire junior people anymore. We're just going to have AI do all that work. But the problem long term, if you're thinking holistically, is like, okay, so if you're not training junior people, how are people going to ever learn this profession and get to that higher level
100%.
engineer or lawyer, where then they understand enough to make good decisions? If you're cutting out that pipeline of training people and you're just saying, okay, we're going to have AI do all this instead,
Who's
like,
left?
long
Right.
term, you're screwing yourself. Like, that is just so short sighted to me.
It is.
I read these things on LinkedIn and I see a lot of industry news. And to me, that's just honestly idiotic. Like, yeah, it's going to cost your company money to hire junior level software engineers, but you have to build that pipeline. You have to
Yeah.
still keep the expertise in house and not just think that you can farm this all out to AI.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of challenges going on right now, but I think that to me, that's one of the biggest ones that I worry that companies are really being short-sighted long term.
I couldn't agree more. One of the things that we do on our, at Deploy is we focus on the growth side, right? And so
Hmm.
we work with clients that have large SDR teams, right? And we're saying, well, we're not here to replace your SDRs. Now,
Hmm.
if you have 8 and you want to go down to 6, okay, do
Yeah,
that 90 days later, right?
sure.
Let the AI work alongside these SDRs, right? And again, this is just one example. And
Hmm.
watch when they build 3 times the pipeline with AI
Hmm.
as their counterparts. Like, so then why would you want to get rid of them? To
Sure.
me, that you make them superhuman. That's what
Hmm.
you want to do with AI. Same
Yeah.
thing. Like we had the CEO from Gavel, right? Gavel.io, and she amazing ex-attorney, and she built this to make attorneys' workflows better, right?
Hmm.
And she was taught, and she was like, it's not meant to get. It's meant for them to build these things to make their lives easier, their morale better, but to
Hmm.
focus their paralegals and their junior attorneys on learning the job and managing that workflow, not to replace them. And I said
Sure.
that's the theme that keeps coming out of the podcast is exactly what you
Absolutely.
said.
Yeah.
Is coming up and watching the use cases of how you make your employees, one, their morale goes up because they're not doing the crappy work,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Right. And
Everybody
now
enjoys that
they're
part.
free their mind up, right, to
Yeah,
work on stuff you hired them actually to do and not get
sure.
bogged down, and then make them 2, 3, 5 times more productive, right?
Right, right.
So anyway, I hope that's how everybody sees it. That's
Yeah.
been the theme.
Well, one of my favorite companies that we did, or very interesting, one of my favorite research projects, it's a company that they record sales calls and then use AI to help coach the sales team about how they can improve.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a few companies like that out there. You're probably familiar with them. But I think that is a perfect use case of AI because you are, again, sorting through hundreds of hours of sales calls and emails and data. And
Yep.
it's pinpointing these are the things that lead to success. These are the things that lead to close sales. And it helps train the sales team to be more effective at what they're doing.
100%.
Like there needs to be, I just wish, I mean, Silicon Valley unfortunately doesn't do this well at all, but I wish that there was a guiding ethos around that to build products to that end versus let's just replace our teams, let's slim down, let's increase our profit margins at all costs, let's eliminate this pipeline of young workers that need to get trained. Like to me that's
Right.
so, like, honestly
Short-sighted.
immoral. It's
Yeah.
short-sighted, but it's also immoral because
Yeah.
people need jobs and you need to have consumers. Like if you're cutting out that whole class of consumers, who's going to buy your product at the end of the day? Like how is this going to affect the overall economy too? It's
Right.
short-sighted in so many different directions, right? And it doesn't need to be.
Yep. And listen, people have different opinions, but when I think about, right, one of the first biggest disruptor ever was Uber, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
when I think about what Uber did, right, the taxi industry hated it, but what it did is it gave millions of people jobs,
Hmm.
right? You know how many more Uber
Right.
drivers are around the world now than
Sure.
there were taxi drivers? Like, and again,
Absolutely.
it's how you look at it. But to
Yeah.
me, that's how we should be looking at some of this stuff when we
Yeah.
think about AI. So
Yeah,
totally
how
agree
can
with
this
you.
augment work? How can this help more
Yeah.
people be in work? Like to me, it's super important to value human work and people need to have jobs and that fuels our economy. It fuels everything. And so if you're building these machines that are attempting to replace that and take humans out of it, I think that's not a great use of technology or your time.
Totally agreed. Totally agreed. Well, one last question. If I gave you a magic wand and you
Sure.
could use AI to do one thing to help interview research, what would you use it for?
So funny because I often ask a magic wand question when I'm doing research at the end with a product. Let's see if I
It's
could
great for
give it
product, by the way,
for
right?
sure.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're like, I want 30 things, and you're like, I
Right.
need to know what the one is that you care about.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's my AI camera.
Oh, no problem. I wish it could help. I haven't played around with it enough with like design and reports and laying out data, but once we have it written with the help of AI, the themes and kind of like how we're structuring a report or a
Hmm.
finding, the tedious part of then building the report and building the story, which again you need a human to do that because there's a lot of different layers to it, but if it could kind of maybe give us a start and then you can refine it, and I think pretty sure there are tools that will do that for you. I just haven't played around with them. That would probably be one of my requests, but honestly the way it's working right now I'm so thrilled with. And it leaves us still as researchers. It gives us more bandwidth to design really innovative studies and methodologies and still have that human contact when we're interviewing people. But it takes away just hours and hours and hours of analyzing the data. I really love where it's at right now, and I wouldn't change that. But if it could design a beautiful report for me, that would be great.
I love it. Yeah, and I'm sure it can. All right. So, no, this is great, Joanna. Thank you for sharing. Tell everybody how to get in touch with you guys at InterQ.
Yeah. So our website, interq-research.com. If you just Google InterQ, INTERQ research, you'll find us. That's probably the best way to start is go to our website.
Awesome. And we'll have the links all in the show notes. So when we go live, but Joanna, thank you for sharing the insights. It's been a lot of fun talking to you. And I'm telling you that we have a lot of startup founders on this. So they're going to watch this because product market fit and how product is the user experience, right, that you guys do.
So
and those folks, it's so important. Yeah. Hopefully they see this and they get in touch with you. So that's the whole point of the podcast is how we connect everybody together. And so thank you again for sharing your insights.
Yeah, glad to do it. Thank you for having me.
Well, guys, that wraps up this episode of Future Proofed, where we are always looking to help you future-proof your business. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you on tomorrow's episode.
Thank you.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.